I'm Kaylee and welcome back to BeautyBrainsBlush. Today I'll be teaching you all about the different types of makeup brushes and what each kind is used for. I'm going to show you makeup brushes in the same order that I like to do my makeup. So we're going to start with foundation. This is what your standard foundation brush looks like. It has a rounded top edge and they're very flat. Because these are so dense and flat, it doesn't soak up a lot of product, which means spreading it across your face is pretty easy. However, these are not the best brushes to blend out foundation with. If this foundation brush is the only type that you use to blend out your foundation, you will probably have a lot of streaks in your makeup, which you don't want. Instead, you can use a dense, fluffier brush to blend out your makeup. Typically, you won't be using fluffy brushes to blend out liquid and cream products. But because this brush is so dense, it spreads the product and buffs it into your skin very nicely, creating a very even, smooth finish. Foundation brushes like these are what people typically prefer to put on their foundation over the flat brush type I just showed you. The next type of brush I'm going to show you are stippling brushes. I'm showing these to you next because they're almost always used solely for liquid and cream products, so I want to go over these before we go into powders. Stippling brushes have two different lengths of bristles in the brush. There are denser bristles on the lower half and some more wispier, flowier, fluffier ones on the upper half. Brushes like this are awesome for cream blushes and bronzers. I personally like to use this medium-sized stippling brush to apply cream blush, and then I like to use this smaller stippling brush to apply cream highlighter on the high points of my face. These big fluffy brushes are powder brushes. Brushes like these can be used with pressed or loose foundation or setting powders. Because these are so large and fluffy, it makes putting powder all over your face super quick, but they're not as good for detail work. If you're not trying to apply powder to your entire face and you want a little bit more precision, you'd be better off using a smaller powder brush. As you can see, there is a huge difference in the size here, and some of these smaller brushes make putting powder just underneath your eye way easier than using a big brush like this one. After I have my foundation on, my cream products on, and my face is set, I will go in with bronzer. These are the shape of brushes that is awesome for powder, contour, and bronzing. This contouring brush looks similar to those powder brushes we just looked at, but has a flatter top, which makes getting it into the chisels of your cheeks a little bit easier. This is also for bronzing in smaller particular areas. I also really like using this angled brush for bronzing. Because of the shape, it fits really nicely under your cheekbones and around your forehead where you're bronzing your face. And because it's a little bit fluffier than the other brushes, it makes blending out bronzer a little bit easier. These are standard blush brushes. These two are very round, fluffy brushes that are awesome for applying blush all over the apples of your cheeks. A brush like this one is pretty dense, so the blush won't go everywhere. It'll be more condensed in one area of your face, but the rounded bristles will blend them out very smoothly. Using a large brush like this one will make applying blush super quick to your face, but you won't be able to use it for as small of areas. Angled blush brushes are also pretty popular. Because of the shape that fits perfectly on your cheeks, it's a great alternative to those big, larger blush brushes, especially if you don't want as much blush. Highlighting brushes. There are tons of them, and it really just comes down to what you want to use to apply your highlighter. These are all standard highlighting brushes. As you can tell, the sizes range a lot. What all of these brushes have in common is that the bristles are pretty long in comparison to their size, and they're tapered a little bit at the top. This tapered shape helps you get right to the top of your cheekbones and other places you highlight on your face very easily. Also, all these brushes are pretty fluffy, making you dust that highlighter on and blend it out super quick. Sometimes I find that this brush is just too big to highlight my entire face, and I'll only use it on my cheekbones. Then I can go in with a smaller brush like this one and highlight more precise areas of my face, like under my brow bone. And I'll let you in on a secret too. This is actually an eyeshadow brush that's just too large for me to use in my eye because it would take up my entire eyelid. So I use it as a highlighting brush. Another popular brush type used for highlighting are fan brushes. Because of the shape of this brush, it just sits on top of your cheekbones very nicely, and using that flat edge that is rounded gives you a perfect shape on your face. Once again, using a brush like this might just be too big to highlight small areas of my face. So I like to go in with this tiny fan brush, which, once again, a secret, this is actually a paintbrush from Michael's craft store, and I can pop that right underneath my brow bone and highlight perfectly. But just like this fan brush, there's also bigger fan brushes. While you could try to highlight with a brush this big, I think you would get highlighter over your entire face. My personal favorite brush to use for bronzer is this fan brush right here. I don't like to be super precise with my bronzer and have a very chiseled line. I like it to be very blended out and smoothed on my face. I take this brush, I swirl in my bronzer, and I apply it on my cheekbones, around my hairline, and my jawline, and I get my bronzer on very quickly, and it blends out super easy with a brush as fluffy as this one. There are only a couple other types of face brushes left for us to go through. The first are these tiny concealer brushes. Technically, these brushes that look like a small foundation brush are concealer brushes, but I don't know many people that actually use them that way. Just like the larger foundation brush, these are rounded on the top and very flat on the side. Because of their shape and size, these are awesome to go underneath your brow to carve it out or to cut the crease in your eyeshadow. The only time I would use this brush for concealer on my face is if I had a blemish that needed more coverage. Because it's so dense and it won't blend, I can just pat a little bit where I need it and it would pretty much stay in place. But I wouldn't recommend this type of brush for blending out concealer under your eye because you will have streaks just like you would with the foundation brush. Lip brushes. Lip brushes are mainly used by makeup artists who have lip palettes full of cream lipsticks. Makeup artists will then scoop out a little bit of the lipstick onto a sanitary palette and then use a lip brush to apply it to their clients so there isn't any cross-contamination for people wearing the same lipstick and germs mixing up. For the most part, people who use lip brushes at home use them with bullet lipsticks that you twist up to get a nice sharp lip line with that product using a brush instead of the actual tube. And last, we have a brow brush. Angled brushes are typically all people use for eyebrows, and the sharpness allows you to get nice lines and to draw realistic hair-like strokes. The spoolie then allows you to brush out your brows throughout the process, and having both in the same brush is super duper handy. I also want to mention a couple other tools that you can use for applying makeup. The first is makeup sponges. Sponges are awesome for applying a lot of liquid and cream products. I use this makeup sponge to apply my foundation, my concealer, and sometimes even setting powder. Sponges can also be used for cream contour, cream blush, cream bronzer, cream highlighter. Pretty much they can be used for most of your face. And using a damp makeup sponge like this on your face with powder can help it look less cakey because of the moisture from the sponge. I also like to use a makeup sponge after I spray my face with setting spray. So just tap it in and make sure there's no water droplet marks on my face. The very last tool I want to talk about today are your fingers. Sometimes your hands get a bad rep because we know that there's a lot of bacteria on your hands, and if you put on your makeup with dirty hands, it can be gross and it can look unblended and just not very good. However, if you wash your hands first, as long as your hands are clean, they can be some of the best makeup tools that you have. The warmth of your fingers can warm up makeup product and help it blend into your skin a lot easier than some brushes can. And also, if you're in a rush, you can save a lot of time in the morning if you're not looking through all your makeup brushes. If you just tap on a little bit of concealer and some like cream blush and you run out the door. And don't forget, after you use all of these makeup brushes, you need to clean them. I'll link an article below that teaches you exactly how to clean your makeup brushes easily at home with dish soap. I hope you learned a lot with this guide to makeup brushes. If you like reading, I will have the corresponding blog post linked down below. That post has pictures of all the brushes that you can refer to and bookmark if you'd like. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to my channel. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye. Okay. This is what your standard foundation brush looks. Brush. What is that noise? Oh, it's playing. For the most part, people who live. Blush, brush, blush, brush, blush, brush. Oh, what was I even saying? Can help it look cake. Can help it look cakey. You don't want that. That's not it.